the Devil's Elbow. This danger brought about a new profession here in Wisconsin Dells. There were men known as standing river pilots who were very successful at navigating this stretch, and perhaps the most successful, the most famous, was a man by the name of Leroy Gates. Now, Leroy left us what we like to call the Dells' first billboard. It's really his business card. So coming up on the left-hand side of the boat, it'll be the right wall of the cove, about 8 feet up from the water, just past some low-hanging branches. There's an inscription. It reads, Leroy Gates, Dells and River Pilot from 1849 to 58. Directly to our left, about 8 feet up from the water, just past that lowest hanging branch. Now, Leroy Gates said that he would not lose a lumber raft or a man's life, and he did stay true to his word. But he ended up losing his job as the lumber industry switched over from the river to the railroad. It was much safer, faster, and more efficient. But Leroy didn't want to leave this beautiful section of the Wisconsin River, so he started one of the first Dells boat tours. And I hope that sounds familiar, because you're on one today. Now, back in those days, the tours were very different. You would walk up to his private dock, hand him 2 quarters, and he would give you 2 oars. And you would row yourself up and down the Wisconsin River, sometimes for as long as 8 hours, while good old Leroy sat on the boat underneath an umbrella, sipping on some lemonade, and telling you all about the beautiful sights. He was quite the smart businessman back in his day. Now, Leroy, along with his father, Schuyler Gates, built and operated one of the first bridges to span the Wisconsin River. It would have been back between the Gates inscription and the Devil's Elbow, and they operated it as a toll bridge. Everything had to pay a toll to cross that bridge. You had to pay, your wagon had to pay, all your pigs and chickens had to pay. One of the favorite pastimes of that era was to pay the toll in the springtime, go out on the bridge, and watch some of those remaining lumber raftsmen try to negotiate the Devil's Elbow. Coming up in front of us and off to the left is the ending, or really the beginning of that old riverbed channel. And this also marks the end of Black Hawk Island on our left-hand side. And then coming up to the right, there's a pair of concrete docks, and these have a path that lead back into Coldwater Canyon. This used to be a stop on our everyday Dells boat tour, but it did add an extra hour to the tour, making it inconvenient for our passengers. Plus, we know that Gilligan ruined the whole 3-hour tour thing. But you can still travel back into Coldwater Canyon if you take our ghost boat tours during the summer. We bring a boatload of people out here, drop them off at the dock, send them back along the path, and then we never see them again. Not sure what happens. And there is Coldwater Canyon, that opening, and some of the pilots do fit boats back in there. You got about a foot of water on either side of the boat to operate. But now I would like you to look for a large triangular-shaped rock coming up on the right-hand side of the boat. The right-hand side. Used to be an overhanging ledge over the river, but now it's fallen to where you can see it today. It's known as the Giant's Shield. It's used as a natural high water marker. So back in 1993 and in 2010, water crested at the top of that Giant's Shield. people ask us, hey Mark, hey Ben, why does the river get wider in this area? It's a pretty simple answer. It's because the banks are further apart. It's true, but there's a much better reason. Back before the Kilbourne Dam was built in 1909, the water level was 15 to 20 feet shallower than it is today. And off to our left would have been the Thousand Islands of the Dells, many swampy oak-covered islands. So when they put the dam in, it swamped those swamps, but the treetops were still visible above the water surface. So when winter came and the bay froze over, people living in the area cut down the trees at ice level to use the lumber to heat their homes. This was perfectly okay, except when spring came, the ice melted and left those tree stumps and tree roots just beneath the water surface. Today, this is a water hazard known as the Sunken Forest of the Dells, and as we cross Stand Rock Bay, we do have to be very careful to avoid any of those unpleasantries. Or dare I say, unpleasant trees. There we go. Off to our right is Sunset Cliff, lights up with beautiful colors at sunset. And then up to the left is Signal Point. Up at the top of Signal Point, Native Americans would light signal fires in order to communicate with others across the bay. And as we pass in between these two cliffs, we are now entering the Witch's Gulch. The Witch's Gulch was discovered by a famous pioneer photographer. His name was Henry Hamilton Bennett, traveling up and down the river in his canoe, taking pictures of the landscape. When he found this spot, he wanted to do some exploring, but he actually found his way was blocked by fallen trees and a waterfall. So later that winter, he strapped on his homemade ice skates, skated 5 miles up the frozen river, picked his way through the fallen trees, cut ice steps in the waterfall, and what he found was a beautiful glacial meltwater canyon. Some of the sights we'll be able to see today are the Witch's Falls, Witch's Bathtub, and Witch's Window. And if you can't tell which is which, we do have brown and yellow signs up, down, and all around that could point those out for you. The year after H.H. Bennett discovered the Gulch, he built a boardwalk up and through the Gulch, along with the first concession stand. And that's not a joke. There's a picture back in the Gulch on a signboard of one of the original concession stands, a little restaurant of sorts. But we have kept that tradition alive for you today. This will be about a 2-block walk up and through the Gulch on a very flat, level wooden boardwalk. There you will find that concession stand, a set of restrooms, a smoking area, the only smoking area, and a parking lot. We ask that you please do not go past the smoking area. All that's back there is a service road that leads back into Killer Chipmunk country. So look out, don't go past the stop sign. There's a big stop sign. When you see the stop sign, stop, turn around, come back to the boat. Anything you decide to purchase at that concession stand, you are more than welcome to bring back on board the boat. But again, please do use those garbage receptacles located at the rear of the boat or the ones along the path. We'd like to keep this area as clean as possible. When you return to the boat, please do return to your same seats. We don't need any fights over this glorious lawn furniture. And as we are docking the boat, please keep everything inside the boat at all times and stay seated. Again, stay in your seats. When we are completely tied up, I'll be sure to let you know when it is safe to stand up and come ashore. We plan on spending 15 to 20 minutes back here in the Gulch, so if everyone could please be back on board before 4 o'clock. Back on board before 4 o'clock.